Stories from Upanishads.
Retold by Arghya Goswami. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunyuyam Devah Bhadram Pashyema Aksabhir Yajatraha Sthirair Angais Tustu Vamasastanubhi व्याशेम देवहितं यादायुः स्वस्ति न इंद्रो वृद्धश्रवः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टता नेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः Shanti, which means, O gods, may we hear auspicious words with the ears while engaged in yagyas. May we see auspicious things with the eyes while praising the gods with steady limbs. May we enjoy a life that is beneficial to the gods. May Indra of ancient fame be auspicious to us. May the supremely rich and all-knowing Pusa, God of the earth, be propitious to us. May Garuda, the destroyer of evil, be well disposed towards us. May Brihaspati ensure our welfare. Om peace, peace, peace. Dear friends, before I begin my podcast, I would like to share a very exciting news. Stories from Upanishad has now got its exclusive website. Please visit https://www.storiesfromupanishads.com to get some more information in form of blogs, collection of my previous podcast episodes, and exciting offers from Exotic India, which offers a unique selection of products that reflect the culture of traditions and lifestyle of India. You can directly access their website using the link provided in the button Shop Now. Also, I'll put the link in the show notes below. Today's story is from Mundaka Upanishad. This Upanishad is part of Atharva Veda. It has 64 verses which are divided into 3 mundakams or chapters, with each with 2 sections. The word Mundaka comes from the word Mund, which means shave. As you may know, in most of the Hindu traditions we perform Mundan or shaving of the hair from a child during Upanayana ceremony. So, how is shaving of hair associated to this Upanishad? Basically, shaving metaphorically represents shaving off the ignorance or shaving off the knots of your past and start a new life with the new learnings. It may also mean that monks, sannyasis or brahmacharis shave off their head to represent that they have left their previous life, its entanglements, its associations, its relations, and is ready to start a new life as a monk, sannyasi or a brahmachari. As most of the Upanishadic stories, this is also a dialogue between a guru or a teacher named Sage Angiras and his student who is a householder named Shaunaka, which also includes the famous Upanishadic metaphor of 2 birds of different characters on a tree. Let's find out more about it. Brahma, who is Swambhu, manifested himself first. He is the creator of this universe and protector of the world. His eldest son was Atharvan or Atharva, to whom he imparted the knowledge of Brahman. Friends, although if you Google about children of Brahma, most likely you will find the following results: Angiras, Atri, Bhrigu, Chitragupta, Daksha, Himavan, Jambavan, Kama, Krathu, Shanak Kumar, Sananda Kumara, Sanata Kumara, Sanatana Kumara, Marichi, Narada, Pulaha, Pulastya, Shatarupa, Sindhura, Swayambhuva Manu, Vashishta and Saraswati. However, in Mundaka Upanishad it is mentioned that Atharva was the first born of Brahma and Angiras was the descendant of Atharvan. There is a bit of discrepancy on the children of Brahma, and I would leave it out as our itihasa was mostly Shrutis and Smritis. Vedas were the oldest text and then followed by Upanishads and then Puranas. Puranas gained mass popularity due to its numerous tales and accounts mentioned in them. So, writers and composers of these texts have represented the information which was apt for that time. So for this podcast, I would stay true to what Mundaka Upanishad conveyed to us and not argue or discuss anything on this topic further. So Atharva got all the Brahma Gyan from Brahma and composed Atharva Veda. He passed on this knowledge to Angir, who was descendant of Angiras in the ancient time. Angir passed this knowledge to Satyavaha Bharadwaja. Satyavaha passed this knowledge of Brahma Vidya or Brahma Gyan to another Angiras, who is our today's protagonist. As per the book, The Bharadwajas of Ancient India by Professor Thaneshwar Sharma, it is stated that Bharadwajas are a clan belonging to Angirasas. So, Mundaka Upanishad appears to be that tradition of passing Brahma Vidya or Brahma Gyan was handed down to the seers of the family or families of Angirasa from generation to generation. The name Satyavaha Bharadwaja is lost to us in different texts in both Vedic and post-Vedic era. The composers have used the Gotra name freely instead of using their first name. Same confusion is with other families of seers such as Vashishthas or Vishwamitras or Gautamas. Now let's get back to the story. Sage Angirasa, who has the Brahma Vidya, had a student named Shaunaka, who was a householder or grihastha. One day, Shaunaka approached his guru and asked a question. "O Guru, what is that, knowing which everything is known?" Angiras smiled and replied, "O Shaunaka, there are two kinds of knowledge which can be acquired, the higher knowledge and the lower one. According to the knower of Vedas, this is what runs as a tradition from generation to generation." Shaunaka asked, "Which is the lower knowledge, O Venerable One?" Sage replied, "Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, the sounds of pronunciation, code of rituals, grammar, linguistic, etymology, meter, poetry, astrology, all these are lower knowledge." Then inquisitively Shaunaka asked, "Then the higher one, O Guru?" Sage calmly replied, "The higher knowledge is the one by which the imperishable one is attained. Wise realize it everywhere that cannot be perceived, which is without source, features, eyes, ears, which neither has hands or legs, which is external, multiformed, no family, no caste, no color, all pervasive, extremely subtle and undiminishing, that verily it springs all life. Just as a spider spreads out and withdraws its silky thread, just as herbs and trees grow on earth, just as hair grows on head and body of a living man, the universe emerges from him who is the imperishable one." Hearing this, Shaunaka was awestruck. He pleaded for more. The sage continued, "Dear Shaunaka, know that only through meditation, the knowledge of creation, the Brahman, can be known. It is the source of all creation. When it desires to create, it increases its size, just like a seed sending out its sprout. From that Brahman, it becomes inflated because of its possessions through its omniscience, power, knowledge of creation, preservation, and dissolution. It grows food for all creatures of the world. Beginningless Maya is the unmanifested food. From that food, in a state of imminent manifestation, Prana was born. Hiranyagarbha, which is the common thread among all beings in this universe, that is endued with power of knowledge and action, who sprout out from the seed of all beings, which is constituted by ignorance, desire, and action. who identifies himself with the universe. From that Hiranyagarbha evolved Mana, that which is called the cosmic mind, comprising determination, deliberation and doubt. From that Mana or mind, again characterized by determination, deliberation and doubt, evolves Satyam and the Panchabhuta or five elements. These are called Satya or truth. From these elements or Satya evolved the Loka or the seven worlds such as Earth and other planets in succession. After the creation of cosmic egg or Brahmanda, following is the order of evolution of creatures. Beginning with men, there evolved on these worlds karmas, caste and stages of life. And from the karmas, Amritam evolves, which leads to immortality, which is the fruit of karma. It is immortality since it is not destroyed as long as karma is not eliminated even in billions of cycles or kalpas. From him who is omniscient and all-knowing and whose austerity is constituted by the knowledge, Brahma is born, who is called Hiranyagarbha. Inside Brahma, name, color, food all evolve. The sage continued his response in further detail. Dear Shaunaka, this is Satya or the truth. Perform all rituals as recommended. The karmas that the wise has discovered in the mantras are accomplished in the sacrifice, where the three Vedic duties are united. You perform these rituals with desire of true results. This is your path leading to the fruits of karma acquired by yourself. The Agnihotra must perform these rituals in the correct way. When the fire is set ablaze in the altar, the flames shoot up. Pour your oblations into the fire in between the first and the last pouring of the ghee. The sacrificer must be well grounded and offer oblations or ahutis in honor of the gods. These ahutis need to be made for many days. This path of karma that consists of adequate offering or oblation is the road to attainment of the results of karma. However, it is a difficult path to follow as there are numerous impediments pop out on its way. All rites must follow the rule of Darsa and Purnamasa, that is the new and the full moon days. Two oblations must be offered in the right and the left sides of the fire in the honor of fire and Soma, and other oblations must be made in the middle portion, which is called Avapasthana. The Agnihotra sacrifice is performed twice a day, that is in the morning and in the evening. This daily routine must be followed throughout a man's life. For the performer of the sacrifice, whose Agnihotra is devoid of rites followed in new and full moon days, that is Darsha or Purnamasa, devoid of Chaturmasa, or once in every 4 months, devoid of Agrayana rituals which are performed in the autumn and spring with the new harvest, and guests are unserved or ahutis remain unperformed or not properly performed, and rites of Vaishvadeva are unperformed, then such rites destroy the 7 worlds of the sacrificer. Even Pindadan or offering lump of food to the departed souls of the ancestors will not bore any fruit. Friends, here the 7 worlds may be the ancestors and predecessors of the sacrificer who do not get the fruit of the sacrifice. So 7 worlds are earth to Satya, and these are called Bhur, Bhuvar, Swar, Maha, Jana, Tapas and Satya. Now let's get back to the story. The sage continued, these oblations must be made to the 7 flaming tongues of fire, that is Kali the black, Karali the terrible, Manojava the swift as thought, Sulohita the blood red flames, Sudhum Ravarna the thick smoke, Spulungini the emitting sparks, and the beautiful shining flame Vishwaruchi. These 7 flames are Sapta Jiva or the tongues of the fire meant for devouring the clarified butter or ghee offered as oblations. These oblations or ahutis offered by the sacrificer carry them along the course of the sun's rays into these 7 tongues of fire at proper time, at the time fit for each rite, lead them to the heaven where Indra and other gods dwell. Do that, and those offerings will beckon you. Come, come, and whisk you away on the shining rays of the sun to the beautiful world you have won by your good deeds. This karma is unassociated with the knowledge and meditation and denounced by showing that it has only limited result. That is the product of ignorance, desire, and action, and leads to unsubstantial and source of misery. Since these 18 constituents of the sacrifice on which the inferior karma rests are perishable because of their fragility, therefore those ignorant people who are elated with the idea that this is bliss undergo old age and death over and over and over again, remaining within the fold of ignorance and think that they are wise and learned, while the fools are buffeted or hurt and stroll around like the blind led by the blind alone. The unenlightened ones boast in the ignorance and think that they have attained the goal. Since the men engaged in karma do not understand the truth under the influence of attachment, and hence they become afflicted with sorrow and exhaustion of results of karma and good deeds are deprived of heaven. Sage continued his conversation. These deluded fools believe that rites inculcated by the Vedas and Smritis to be the highest and do not understand that what leads to the liberation. They, having enjoyed the fruits of the deeds or karma in the abode of pleasure or heaven, entered this world or an inferior one. On the other hand, those forest dwellers and hermits engaged in upasana and resort to tapas or meditation and apply these to their own stages of life and meditate on Hiranyagarbha. They have their senses under their control. The learned say that the householders too can be devoted to the meditation in the forest and do not accept any customary gifts while begging for alms. They are freed from dirt, freed from rajas, which gets their sense of righteousness and unrighteousness contaminated. Move superly along the path of the sun, along the northern part from this world to Satya. That immortal Purush, the firstborn Hiranyagarbha, is non-decaying and lives as long as the world endures. The courses of transmigratory existence that are attainable through the lower knowledge culminate here alone. All these rites are included within the scope of the lower knowledge constituted by the Vedas and that are undertaken by the persons subjected to natural ignorance, desire, and deeds. They have been inculcated only for the man swayed by the defects of ignorance, desire, and deeds. Examining the worlds, that their results are indicated by 2 routes, that is, the northern and the southern path. The worlds of beasts and ghouls that follow as a result from the guilt of omission or non-performance of the obligatory duties and commission of the prohibited ones. Having examining the world from every point of view with the help of direct perception, inference, analogy, and scriptures, the worlds that exist as the goals of transmigration, ranging from the unmanifested to motionless thing, whether evolved or involved. They are devoid of substance that appear like magic, water in a mirage, or a city in space, that are comparable to the dream of water bubbles or foam that get destroyed at every turn. Turning one's back on the worlds earned through merit and demerits accumulated through karma instigated by the defects of ignorance, desires, and deeds. A Brahmin alone can specifically be qualified for acquisition of knowledge of Brahman by renouncing everything till this. Shaunaka was patiently listening to Sage's response. He thought he had always been very particular about doing everything by the scriptures, and of late, though, he has begun to feel a weariness with the humdrum of daily routine and worldly life. Surely there must be something bigger than the rituals, something he could do which would fill him with bliss. So he asked his guru about it. Angira started speaking again. In this universe, there is nothing that is akarta or non product. All worlds are effects of karma. Being the products of action, they are impermanent. Nothing is eternal. All actions are productive of mere transitory things. Since all effects of action are of four kinds, they can be produced, acquired, purified, or modified. Over and above these actions have no other distinction. But I am desirous of eternal, immortal, unchanging, fearless, unmoving, absolute entity, and it is not its opposites. Therefore, what is the need of performing any task which involves great trouble and leads to evil? Having detached in this way, the dispassionate Brahmin should go to a guru or a teacher who is blessed with mental and physical self control, compassion, and mercy for understanding the state which is fearless, auspicious, unproduced, and eternal. The knowledge of Brahman cannot be sought independently. It must be through a learned guru or a teacher who is versed with the meaning of Vedas, and he resides and hears the one who is absorbed in Brahman. One who renounces all activities, remains absorbed in non dual Brahman, is only the Brahmanistha. He is engaged in self repetition or Japanistha and is absorbed in austerity, that is Tapanistha. For one engrossed in karma cannot have absorption of Brahman, as karma and knowledge of self are contradictory. Friends, an important point to note here: Karma Khanda is the section of Vedas that lists rituals, ceremonies, actions, and which, when performed, lead to the enjoyment of power. On the other hand, Jnana Khanda comprises of the philosophical teachings of Upanishads, the dealings with liberating knowledge, and disclaims action, which means attaining the liberation, which would mean that these sections are fundamentally contradictory. But according to the famous Vaishnava scholar Sri Velukudi Sri Krishnan, there is no contradiction when one notes that these prescribed according to the qualification and abilities of the aspirant. The Vedic thought is comprehensive and inclusive and provides all with the opinions for spiritual growth. All rituals and ceremonies enjoined in the Vedas are shown to be the meaningful, as they are founded as on dharma and are concerned with the ritual welfare of human existence. Well, coming back to Sage's conversation with Shaunak, he continued. Having approached a teacher in a proper way, pleasing him, he must ask him about the truth and imperishable Purusha. The teacher whose heart must be calm, external organs in self control, that enlightenment should impart adequate knowledge of Brahman by which realizes the true and imperishable Purusha. That truth which is constituted by the results of karma, which is the subject matter of lower knowledge, is only relative, but this truth is the subject matter of higher knowledge, since it is possessed on the characteristic of supreme reality. That thing which is the subject matter of higher knowledge is Satyam or truth. Since truth and imperishable is altogether beyond direct cognition, an illustration is being cited with the view to realize it. As from the fire fully ablaze, thousands of sparks fly off which are part of the fire, and no spark is like the other one. Similarly, from the imperishable originate different kinds of creatures, and into again they merge, and they are too different from one another. Purusha is transcendental since he is formless, since he is birthless, He is coextensive with that is external and internal, and therefore he is without vital force and without mind. He is pure and comparable to the other higher imperishable called the unmanifested Maya. In such manifestation of consciousness as memory, doubt, etc., the power of Brahman remains ingrained, and thus Brahman appears to be the cause of name and form. But in reality, the transcendental Brahman cannot be so, and accordingly, Maya has to be assumed to be the limiting adjunct of Brahman, causing this appearance of causality in Brahman. The effects are known to be inferior to the causes, so the principle of Maya, which is known as the cause, must be superior to its effect. From him originates the vital force as well as the mind and all the senses, space, air, fire, water, earth that supports everything. All these elements that possesses the successive qualities of sound, touch, color, taste and smell together with all the qualities that belong to its predecessors of each and all these originate from this very Purusha. He is in fact the seer, the hearer, thinker, knower, reality of all senses in all beings, and all creatures too that transmigrate through the five fires are born from the very Purush. From him emerges the fire whose fuel is the sun. From the moon emerges the clouds, and from the clouds, when it rains, herbs and food emerge on the earth. When the man meets a woman, a child is born. Thus from Purusha all originate. From him emerge the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur mantras. Its meter, letters, length are all initiated. All sacrifices, offerings to the Brahmins, the ear, the sacrificer, the worlds where the moon sanctifies and when the sun shines. From him duly emerge the gods in various forms, as they are 8 Vasus, 12 Adityas, 11 Rudras, and others. The Sadhyas, the human beings, the beast, birds, life, rice, as well as austerity, faith, truth, continuance, and dutifulness. Friends, a quick note on 8 Vasus, 12 Adityas, and 11 Rudras, as mentioned. In different scriptures, there are varying list of 8 Vasus or the bright ones. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad lists 8 Vasus as Prithvi, Varun, Agni, Vayu, Aditya, Dayayus or Akasha, Chandrama and Nakshatrani. Manava Purana lists 8 Vasus as Bhumi, Samudra, Agni, Vayu, Anshuman, Akasha, Varchas, Prabhasa. In Mahabharata, the 8 Vasus are listed as Dhara or earth, Apa as water, Anala as fire, Anila as wind, Pratyusha as sun, Prabhasa or sky, Soma or moon, Dhruva or pole star. Aditya are offspring of Aditi, who is the goddess of infinity. It also refers to the sun god or Surya. Again, different scriptures have listed different Adityas. Rig Veda has listed Varun, Mitra, Aryaman, Daksha, Bhaga, Amsa, Surya and Martandya. Shatapatha Brahmanas have listed the following as 12 Adityas, and they are Yama, Aryaman, Indra, Ravi, Varun, Bhaga, Surya, Savitri, Amsa, Mitra and Daksha. Vishnu Puran has mentioned the following as 12 Adityas, and they are Vishnu, Aryaman, Sakra, Tavastra, Varun, Dhuti, Bhaga, Savitra, Vivasvat, Amsa, Mitra and Pusan. Linga Puran names 12 Adityas as Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, Tavastram, Varun, Dhata, Bhaga, Savitra, Vivasvat, Anshuman, Mitra and Pusan. Now Rudras refer to the forms of Shiva. They make up 11 of the 33 gods according to the Vedas. Matsya Puran notes that Surabhi, the mother of all cows, was the consort of Brahma, and a union produced 11 Rudras. And they are Niriti, Sambhu, Aparajita, Mrigavadhya, Kaparadi, Dahana, Khara, Manas, Ahirbhadya, Kapali, Pingala, and Senani. Vishnu Purana identifies Rudras as Shiva, and they are listed as Manu, Mamsa, Mahan, Siva, Rutudhwaja, Ugraretas, Bhava, Kama, Vamadeva, and Dhritavarta. Now coming back to the story. Angiras continued to explain his student. From him emerged the 7 sense organs, 7 flames, 7 kinds of fuel, 7 oblations, beside these 7 seats of senses in which the prana move about, which sleep in the cavity of the body during the deep slumber, have been deposited by the ordinary in the groups of 7 in each living being. Which means that from Supreme Omniscient Purusha himself emerge all that the karmas and the fruits of karma and those men of knowledge and sacrifice to the Supreme Self or Atman, as well as all the karmas and auxiliaries and results of karmas of the ignorant beings. From him emerge all the oceans, mountains, river flows in various forms. All the food grains such as corn are grown, by the virtue of which the internal self verily exists in the midst of the elements and that are gross and 5 in number. It is called Na-anrtam or the conscience because of its existence in between the gross body and the Atman or the self. The sage said, O Shaunaka, the Purusha alone is all this comprising of knowledge and karma. He who knows this supreme immortal Brahman existing in the heart destroys the knots of ignorance, tendencies and impressions created by the ignorance that are hard to untie here and whether living and even after death. Dismiss everything you know except one truth. He who is the Brahman is indeed the Self or Atman, which shines forth in you and in every creature. This is the knowledge that cuts the knots of self-doubt that strangles the heart, and this is how he is gained. And then the sage recited the sloka. Avihi samanihitam guhacharam namah mahat padam tratayat samarpitam ejat prana yat nimisat yadeta janatha sadasa varenyam param Vignat Drishwatham Pragyanam, which means it is the effulgent near at the hand and well known as moving in the heart. It is the great goal on which on it are fixed are those that move, breathe, wink or do not wink. Know this one which comprises the gross and the subtle, which is beyond ordinary knowledge of the creatures, which is the most desirable and the highest of all. On hearing this from his Guru, Shaunaka was moved beyond words. He bowed before his Guru and said, O Guru, the learned one, my heart yearns for Brahman. What can I do to gain him? Please tell me, sir. Please teach me. How can this be done? Angiras smiled and said, O dear Shaunaka, pick as your weapon the mighty bow of Upanishad, place an arrow which is sharpened by the meditation and drawing the string, and absorb your mind and concentration in the thought of Brahman and hit that very target that is the imperishable. Om is the bow, your soul is the arrow, the target is the Brahman, which can be hit by an unerring man. One should become one with it just like the arrow hits the bullseye of the target. So unleash your arrow and you will be united with Brahman. In the supreme bright sheath is Brahman, free from taints and without parts. It is pure and light of the lights. It is which the knowers of the self realize. There the sun does not shine, nor the moons or the stars, nor do flashes of lightning shine there. How can this fire do so? Everything shines according to him as he does so by his light. And all this that in front of is Brahman. the immortal. The Brahman is all that sides back, left, right, above, below. This world is nothing but Brahman, which is the highest. After saying this, the sage narrated a story to Shaunaka about two birds on a tree. These two birds are always by the side of each other and stay together on the same tree. One of the bird usually perch on the lower branch, so let's call her the lower bird. And the other bird which usually perch on the higher branch, hence let's call her the higher bird. Now the lower bird always think of her companion, the higher bird, and believes that she is somewhere near her. But even as the thought crosses her mind, she sees a juicy, luscious fruit hanging on a different branch of the tree. As all the thoughts of her friends wipe off, she flies towards the fruit and eats it. Once she has finished eating the delicious fruit, her mind again wanders for her companion, the higher bird. As she was lost in her thoughts of her friend, she sees another juicy looking fruit, which looks more delicious than the previous one. The thoughts of her friend is waned, and she immediately hops towards it, and even though she is not hungry, she gobbles it up quickly. While eating the last bit of the previous fruit, she spots another fruit. Her tummy was filled with 2 servings of delicious fruits, and this time she thought to wait until the next day. But suddenly her thoughts were overshadowed by another thought. What if that fruit is not there tomorrow? Perhaps some other bird may eat it. What if I am not able to locate this delicious fruit tomorrow? What if I die of starvation? These terrible thoughts completely swamped her sense of understanding, and she flew towards it and quickly swallowed the fruit. In the meantime, the higher bird was perching quietly on the higher branch. She was watching her friend, the lower bird, hopping and gobbling fruit after fruit. She was not troubled by the fact that her friend does not need her company, but was busy munching fruits below. Eventually, she would come to her when her work was done. One day, while the lower bird was hopping from branch to branch and devouring fruit after fruit, something unexpected happened. She happily nibbled a fruit which looked delicious but unbearably bitter. As she lurched in self-pity, she thought about her friend, the higher bird. She thought to herself, she must narrate her tale of woe to her friend, as she is the one who truly understands. So she looked up at her friend, the higher bird, and prepares to fly towards her with full gratitude and vague feeling of guilt. As she in her mid-flight, suddenly she spots another juicy, delicious looking fruit in another branch of the same tree. All the thoughts of her friend vanishes immediately, and she glides away towards the branch where the fruit was hanging. She repeated the same cycle of frantic and pointless activity over and over again. After saying this, Angiras paused, and Shaunaka smiled. Shaunaka said, "O Venerable One, my Guru, thank you for this beautiful story. I understand now. The lower bird is the lesser self or Atman, comprised of senses, the mind and intellect. And the higher bird is the supreme self or Brahman. Both of them rest in the same tree, that is the body. The lower self or Atman is too distracted by the delicious fruits and all around. This indicates the temptations from the materialistic world, and after chasing them, forgetting about the friend who is waiting patiently above. Only when she comes across a bitter fruit, she thinks about her friend and wanted to tell her about her woes. This indicates the bitter life experience we face. Then the lower self goes in search of the higher one, looking for solace, compassion, and reassurance." Angiras listened patiently for Shaunaka to complete, and when he was done, he said. That's not all, O Shaunaka. Then he continued his viewpoint of the story. When the lesser self finally reaches the supreme self on his 10th, 100th or 1000th attempt, it realizes that it has been deluded or misled by the count as well. There has never been another bird. As she merges into the golden radiance that has been her constant companion, it finally dawns on the lower bird that the friend she looked up to and adored, it is none other than herself. Shaunaka immediately raised his desire. "O Venerable One, how I wish I could get there myself someday." Angiras was happy and was touched by his student's yearning. He said, "Oh dear Shaunaka, as you can see, this flight towards the higher bird is not an easy one. It cannot be attempted by the weak, the witless, and those who flounder aimlessly in the life. But through the right knowledge and constant practice of austerities, meditation, and living a life of truth, you can certainly get there." Then he recited, "Satyameva Jayate Na-anrtam, satyena panthaa vitato devayaanah, Yen-aakramanty-rsayo hyaapta-kaamaa, Yatr satyasya paramam nidhaanam." Which means the truth alone triumphs and not untruth. By the truth is laid out the divine path, which the seers which are free from the desires and reach to the supreme abode of truth. Just as the rivers flowing into the ocean lose their name, shape, and merge into it, so does one who has illuminated soul lose the name, form, and becomes one with the immortal Brahman. They reach the self-effulgent Purusha that is higher than the higher Maya. The sage continued, "Know this, O dear student Shaunaka, he who knows the supreme Brahman becomes Brahman himself. He overcomes grief, arises above all aberrations, becomes free from the knots of heart, attains immortality. It is only to those who perform the rites with dedication, know and understand the scriptures well, make themselves the offering in the inner sacrificial fire with faith, and are devoted to Brahman, and that knowledge of Brahman may be revealed. Tad etat satyam. This is the truth. This is what Sage Angiras spoke in the ancient time. Salutations to the great sages. Salutations to the great sages. Friends, before I close today's episode, I would like to throw some light on India's national emblem, the 4 lions on Ashoka Chakra. The emblem, which is an adaptation of the lion capital of Ashoka, an ancient sculpture dating back to 280 BCE during Mauryan Empire. Below the emblem, Satyameva Jayate is inscribed in Devanagari script. This motto was taken from Mundaka Upanishad, which you just heard in my story. This slogan was popularized and brought into the national lexicon by Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya in 1819 and when serving his second of the 4th term as President of Indian National Congress. So powerfully this slogan resonates the thought of India. Whatever we did was truth. Whatever we are doing is truth. Whatever we will do will be truth. That is the thought of India. That is the expectation from the people of Bharat. Let us focus our energies to build a great nation and not fight against each other. Let us focus, resolve our problems. Let us face our problems so that we can resolve them. See the nation with pride. Become detached from the results of action and only perform what is required truthfully and faithfully. Combine that higher knowledge with the lower knowledge to perform all works truthfully. Whatever you are doing, coding, managing, consulting, or creating, as you know, only truth triumphs. Satyameva Jayate. That's Mundaka Upanishad for you, my friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and review my podcast series, Stories from Upanishad, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or any other podcast platform. Please leave some review comments, some ratings in them, as these review comments and ratings give me much needed boost to move on. Also, do write to me in my email arghyathinks@gmail.com, as many of my listeners often write to me and discuss with me on various topics. It's about asking more and more questions rather than finding more and more answers. Let the path of communication be transparent and let it flow. And until then,
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hubhopper is India's leading podcast creation platform. Start your podcast with Hubhopper Studio and get your voice heard across platforms like Spotify, Ghana, Google Podcast, Wink Music, and more. Click on the link in the episode description or visit www.hubhopperstudio.com. Source content collected from various books on Upanishads, such as Messages of the Upanishads by Swami Ranganathananda, Brihad-aranyaka Upanishad by Swami Madhavananda, 8 Upanishads from Advaita Ashrama, Upanishads.org, Vedas and Upanishads for Children by Rupa Pai, and several other write-ups and thoughts on Upanishads. Background music is sourced from various royalty-free music sources, Apple Loops, Internet Archives with non-commercial 4.0 international license. Om Shanti chants are from YouTube source Gaia Sanskrit. This podcast was conceptualized, scripted, narrated, and audio designed by Arghya Goswami.